Qapu Khalqi, the men of the wall, protectors of the Silk Road. We leave our families to save yours. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Concilium Watch. In this one, we're going to be going over the sectorial Qapu Khalqi for Haqqislam, a more versatile and defensive sectorial for the faction, though that is not to say it is without any form of high offense. As usual, we'll be going over the profiles that you're going to be finding in this sectorial, how they work, and what you're going to really be wanting to bring in the end. Now, without further ado, let's begin. Up first, we'll be going over the Gulam Infantry, the line troops for Qapu Khalqi and most of Haqqislam as a whole. They are one of your fireteam core options, though they might not be the one you'll be reaching for the most. They're still a very good unit. They are very basic with move 4-4 and generally basic stats all around, BS 11 and all that, armor 1. The big key for them is that they are whip 14, which gives you a lot to do when it comes to their specialist options, which is mostly the Doctor +3, which is a huge piece that you're often going to be grabbing for and very bargain bin, and their lieutenant options. They actually have two, a regular lieutenant, which is bare bones lieutenant at base 11 points, and a Gulam lieutenant with +1 command token if you want to pay a little bit extra. They give you a lot, they do a lot, they can help form the backbone of a fireteam core, which in Qapu Khalqi with all of their wildcard options is actually pretty decent, and you will often see at least one Gulam Doctor kicking around here or there, unless you go for something a little different, which we'll discuss here in a moment. Now moving on from the Gulam, let's go over another one of the fireteam options that you can start building around in the Bazan tactical group. Medium infantry, they are more elite troops with 4-4, BS 12, still whip 14, which you'll see is a staple of Haqqislam, and armor 3. They got a multi-special visor, they have regeneration at Phys 13, better than their usual Phys 11, which is actually really good. They have terrain total, it's a decent pickup, which will be useful in certain missions that have now hit the ITS, and they have both the core and Harris options. A lot of the things you're going to be bringing with the Bazan is a more defensive layout. Sure, they have the heavy machine gun, which will be good if you need an active turn shooting piece, but a piece I really like is the BS Attack Shock AP Sniper. Pretty cheap. AP Sniper, 0.5 SWC with BS Attack Shock. Put it in a core and watch it actually do a lot of work, thanks due in part to the MSV2, among other few things that are present in the sectorial to help really squeeze what they can do out. These are definitely going to be your defensive core option if you want to go that route, but Qapu Khalqi has a lot of different ways that you can build it, and Bazan are just one of the different ways. And finally, to go over one of the last of the core options that you're going to be building around in Qapu Khalqi are the Janissaries. Janissaries got very, very good. They're the heavy infantry, they're veterans, they're BS 14, Phys 14, Whip 14, 4-4, so they don't have the faster aggressive moveset, but armor 4, BTS 6 with 2 wounds, pretty good. You will notice, looking upon them, that they actually do not have a cube. That has something to do with the lore, if I recall correctly. Don't quote me on it, so I'm not going to go too in-depth on it, but it's one of the things you have to keep in mind when you want to bring Janissaries. Onto their special skills, they dodge a little further, which is great at +1 inch. They have the Harrison core options, they're immune to shock as all 2 wounds are, and they're religious. Religious is a great rule. You will often kind of complain about it because you have to pass a whip to fail a guts check, but it'll come in handy if you ever find yourself in retreat and really just want to do that one more turn to try to rip victory out of the jaws of defeat. Now for their profiles, you have your standard heavy machine gun, which is really good when it comes to BS 14, and a missile launcher. These are both great options for both offense and defense. offense with the heavy machine gun, of course, and missile launcher for defense. And again, BS-14 in a fire team core, pretty good. They are pretty aggressively priced, with their cheapest profiles being at 33 points for a boarding shotgun and 34 points for an AP rifle light shotgun. And they also have a single very interesting specialist with the Doctor 2 wounds. This will basically just allow the Janissary to pick someone up, say another Janissary that's unconscious, and bring them back up completely. That's something you actually don't see very often, if at all, in other factions. And they also can bring a fine lieutenant. Other noteworthy profiles are the other two at the boarding shotgun and AP rifle 10-bot -3 to help protect this group of heavy infantry if you want to go with the more aggressive heavy fire team that's going to be pushing forward. Help to protect them against a couple of, well, sneaky hackers that want to get at you. But the two profiles that you're going to be taking the most will be the heavy machine gun and or the missile launcher, depending on what you want to do. Missile launcher usually for a more defensive core, and heavy machine gun for offense and an offensive Harris. They are just generally good profiles, and they're kind of a, well, no, duh, why am I not going to bring these? We're going to go ahead and mention the other line troop for Qapu Khalqi as more of a unique thing that you can now do. The Corregidor Aguasillas are pretty much like Gulam, bar the fact that they're a lower whip and they don't have fire team core or desert terrain. But what they do is that they count as Gulams for composing fire teams. So these are a good way, if you really want to cheapen a Gulam core and to bring a couple of things that Gulams can't bring. For instance, they can bring a multi-sniper, something you do not see in Haqqislam as a whole. They also have a missile launcher and a heavy machine gun, but this is something that you see on all other line troops for the most part. So, and lest I forget, they also have a hacker, which, sure, Gulams also have one, but this one's a point cheaper. So if you want to shave off a point, pretty good. And if you want, you can bring them as a your lieutenant. Cost an SWC, and not something you're probably going to be bringing very often. But Aguasillas are a good little way to cheapen things out if you really want to. Now, one of the big things with Qapu Khalqi, aside from all of their wildcards, which we'll be getting into soon, are their use of mercenary troops. One of the big ones that people really like are the Yanyon. Yanyons are your pretty cheap combat jump parachutist warbands. They're regular, they're impetuous, they're CC-22, so they're decent at fighting, they're not good at shooting at BS-10, but Phys-14, Whip-13, they're good little pieces to drop in and just send off. The combat jump at 11, and they have booty, so when they land, you might get something cool out of them. I've once had a Yanyon drop in. He failed his combat jump roll, but he did roll a heavy machine gun, and that was fun to just have him move up and then be in suppression to help kind of close down a section of the board. Now, the usual one you're going to be bringing, or ones, depending on which weapon you really want, are the chain rifle smoke grenade ones. Either AP or DA CCWs, they're both the same points. It's really dependent on what you feel you need for the mission. Do you need that DA close combat weapon? Say you're going for an AC2 and just really want to hammer at it. Make it take as many saves as possible. Reach for that. You think you're going to be going into a lot of heavy armor, bring the AP close combat weapon, hope that they're not military orders with all of their high close combat, and just try to win on the face-to-face with the extra close combat that you would have. The boarding shotgun and rifle are nothing to stick your nose up at, as boarding shotguns have gotten very good with their direct template weapon ability, and just the fact that they have AP on it, and rifles are just decent if you want another way to suppress without having to unload booty. But booty has a tendency and ability to just get you something similar, to the point that these profiles aren't going to see as much play, but Yanyons in general I think are very good and can make a sort of playstyle for Qapu Khalqi that's a little bit more tricky, kind of leaning into the flavor of Haqqislam as a whole. The next mercenary that we can talk about are the Druze shock teams. Druze are just a generally good piece, all in all. Very good with their BS Attack 12, X Visors, and their outrageous skills, let's be honest. BS Attack +1 damage, Fireteam Core and Duo with Veteran. They bring heavy machine guns and combis and rival pistols if you want to go that route. A Killer Hacker is also very nice at 28 points. There are a few other options that you can bring in Qapu Khalqi, but Druze are just really interesting, and you can bring the full Fireteam Core of them at AVA 5. Armor 3, BTS 3, Whip 13. Generally, you will reach for these guys if you want a more light, cheap, aggressive option. That's sure, the Janissary kind of do what they do a little bit better thanks to the BS 14, but the X Visor helps a lot. The BS Attack +1 damage does a lot, and the Veteran just makes them really good. The next mercenary that we're going to be talking about are the Kaplan Tactical Services, the Tigers, the KTS. I love these guys. These guys are great. Move 4-4, BS 12, Whip 14, Fizz 11, Arm 2, BTS 6. They're the Mimetism medium infantry without cubes that just go forth. They have Harris, they have Core, and they're immune to shock. Oh, and they have Courage. A lot of the things that these guys bring are the heavy rocket launcher, multi-sniper, and Spitfire. Aggressive little things that are really useful, as well as an engineer and doctor at relatively aggressive points cost with really good weapon options. They also have Blitzins on most of their cheaper profiles, or if they're not bringing a Blitzin, they're bringing an adhesive launcher with D-charges. The engineer has a deactivator. They just have a regular specialist at 24 points with a combi Blitzin if you want. Kaplan are a useful multi-tool that you can reach for if you want another option for aggressive fire team Harrises. And as a note, they can bring a certain someone as a part of their fire teams. The last of the mercenary units that you can bring is a tag, and that's Scarface Turner with his sister Cordelia. Scarface is pretty nuts. He's gotten a lot of powerful toys. He's 6'4", like Tag should be, size 7, and CC 22, so he'll fight back in the close combat. He's BS 13, so he's decent at shooting. He's not, stupid powerful like some tags are, but he's really good. Fizz 16, Whip 13, Arm 7, BTS 6 when he's armored up in the tag. ECM -6 for guided, -3 for hacker. He has CC attack -3 on him. He's BS attack +1 damage, as all good tags should be. Berserk +3 is really cool, so you can just throw him forward and punch something like that AC2. Courage, dodge 11. Fireteam Duo, he's got a gizmo kit on him he's got the gizmo kit with Fizz 11. He's immune to shock and Takware. The cool thing about him are all the weapon options. Do you want the Mark 12 with +1 burst and the heavy rocket launcher with +1 burst, all hitting for decently high damage thanks to the fact that he's a tag, and with a good amount of dice? Do you want the AP heavy machine gun and the Panzerfaust? Do you want the AP Spitfire with +1 burst and the Panzerfaust? It's a lot of different things that he can just bring to bear that make him a really attractive option for when you need to pick up a tag. And he comes with his own engineer as part of the price, bringing Cordelia around to help keep him up. And with her mimetism -3, she's a lot harder to hit than most of their engineers. Though I will say that there are some other very good engineers that are in Qapu Khalqi. But it's really, really good. I really like Scarface and Cordelia. They can go around with each other and kind of wreak havoc. So if you need a tag, this is one to pick up. On the topic of tags, there is actually another, the Iguana. So for some reason, the Iguana is showing up here, just like the Aguasillas, and another Corregidor unit that might not be gone over. To quickly mention, it's the Mobile Regatta. He's got a couple of fun things, but he's not something that Qapu Khalqi, I think, is going to be reaching for very often. But the Iguana, on the other hand, is a really interesting little piece in the fact that it's cheap. He is cheap. I can't deny that he just has a really aggressive price point. He's 6'4", like all good tags should be. CC 16, not the best in fighting, but the BS 14 is really attractive. Phys 16, Whip 13, Arm 6, BTS 6, 2 structure. The 2 structure is usually what makes people, at least for Nomad players, kind of shy away from him. But for Qapu Khalqi, I think he can be a really fun choice as this relatively cheap, just throw it forward and hurt something piece. ECM -6, guided, -3 hacker. He's got a repeater on him. He's got the escape system, the BS attack +1 damage, the dodge on 11, the gizmo kitted healed on 11, immune to shock and tactical awareness. The escape system is usually the thing that people will look at and they're like, I'm not so sure about this, because as soon as he takes the 2 structure points, the pilot is gone, he is removed, he's placed on the table next to the Iguana, and the Iguana can't be repaired anymore. But what you get for him having that escape system is a BS-12, move 4-4, heavy infantry dude, keeping the heavy machine gun that the Iguana has, and the tactical awareness. So sacrificing a little bit of ballistic skill, you still get to really play with a big heavy machine gun that at this point you've probably thrown up into the midfield, and you can now just, if you don't want to push forward and go for those face-to-faces, you can just use this tactical awareness order and have him be in suppression in the midfield. Seems pretty good. I like the Iguana. Definitely a very interesting piece. Now, let's go back to the Haqqislam units, because in Qapu Khalqi, there are quite a few interesting ones that can wildcard, but have very specific wildcard options in terms of what they can link with. The first we'll be going over are the Odelisks. Odelisks are one of the more defensive options that you will find in Qapu Khalqi. They're CC 18, BS 12, Phys 10, Whip 14, 2 armor, and they're 4-4. These girls are meant to mostly watch the backs of people, and you can see that a lot in their equipment options. They have a slew of 6th Sense options and a slew of 360 visor options. All of them are the same. Either rifle light shotgun, boarding shotgun, Spitfire nanopulsar, subgun with contender nanopulsar, or subgun nanopulsar, flash pulse +1 burst. But the reason why they're the hugely defensive piece is that they have the CC attack -9 and NWI. They can also core and harass as they like, and they're immune to shock with NWI. These girls are meant to look at the infiltrators and the impersonators that want to get into your back line and stop them. They're there to say, hey, you're trying to get into close combat with my friends? No, I am here to make sure you never get to move. The 360 visors are honestly the pieces that you're probably going to be bringing the most, but we can now see here, with looking at this profile, the special kind of wildcard that Qapu Khalqi brings, in the fact that they are wildcard troopers, but they cannot be with the mercenary troops of the Druze and Kaplans, and they have a max of 2 per fire team. A bit of a balancing thing. I like it because it doesn't limit you from, say, putting them into a Janissary fire team and protecting in close combat for them while still cheapening them. They're a really good option. I really like Odelisks. I think that at least one could definitely be in almost every Qapu Khalqi list you want. I really like the +1 burst flash pulse, because at Whip 14, +1 burst on a flash pulse is really handy, especially when it's in a core. The next of these special wildcards we'll be going over are the Havza. Havza are probably one of my favorite units that you can bring in Qapu Khalqi. They're 4-4 move, CC 14, BS 12, Phys 10, Whip 14, 2 armor, and a wound. BTS 0, whatever. The cool thing is they have Hollow Mask, so you can hide them as things that your opponent might not be expecting. And that's pretty interesting because they bring a slew of really fun profiles. Sure, they have the Spitfire. Sure, they have the FO. And they have lieutenants, which are really interesting if you want to play more shell games with your lieutenant and who it could possibly be. But the profile I like the most is the heavy rocket launcher. Reason being, you can put a couple of these guys, say, in a Gulam fire team. You could hide them as just innocuous Gulam snipers. And then when your opponent has a fire team that's, say, rounding the corner, well, that's not actually a sniper now, is it? That's a heavy rocket launcher. That's not good. They have the same wildcard rule where it's only 2 per, but I really like the heavy rocket launcher trick. It's a really fun trick, and you can catch your opponents off guard. It's just like, oh no, I was I was not looking to fight a heavy rocket launcher all of a sudden. I guess I have to fight that now. And at BS12, they have a much better chance to hit than, say, the Gulams, thanks to the extra ballistic skill. The final of the special wildcards is the Sekben, Naval Special Unit. Move 4-4, CC 17, BS 13, really good. Fizz 11, Whip 14, Armor 3, BTS 3, and a wound. They have 360 visors, which is great, with especially how Sixth Sense has changed. They can duo, Harris, and core. They're trained 0G, and they just have NCO on them flat. So, extra orders, anybody? Yes, please. A lot of their profiles are pretty basic. We'll go over the fact that they have the Spitfire and heavy rocket launcher, though to all my watchers, good luck finding the heavy rocket launcher. I've been looking super hard and haven't been able to find it. If anyone has found it, hit me up. I'd really appreciate it. But the profile I really like the most on the Sekben is the Doctor +3. It's a wildcard Doctor at 28 points with a boarding shotgun. It's got a 360 visor so it can watch people's backs. It's BS 13 so it can really watch people's backs. And you can just slot them, say, with a Janissary core. You'll know I really like to mention the Janissary core because I really like Janissaries. And he'll keep them up. He's rolling a 17 to pick them back up. Sure, he's not re-rolling, but you'll only fail on, 3 rolls on the die. It's really cool. I really like the Sekben, and I think they're a very good piece to pick up. Now, we've gone over the wildcards, we've gone over fire teams, and we've gone over mercs. Let's go over the skirmisher of Qapu Khalqi, the Hawa. People have loved the Hawa for quite a long time. I love the Hawa, even though he's gotten a little bit more expensive. I think the Hawa's great. He's still your basic skirmisher at move 4-4, CC 14. He's BS 11, Fizz 11, Whip 14. He's got an armor and a wound. He's got surprise attack. He's got camo. He's got infiltration. He's got mimetism -3. He's stealth, and he's total terrain. He's still a good piece. 22 points for a forward observer with a boarding shotgun, flash pulse, and dechargers. Yeah, I'd like that. That's really good. He's got a hacker profile with a boarding shotgun and decharges still. Sure, 26 points, 0.5 SWC, but he's Whip 14, giving him a hacking device. Not a bad option. He can probably fight off some killer hackers trying to get at him. And the last profile is the sniper mine layer with shock mines. 23 points, 0.5 SWC. Good little kind of, I'm going to surprise you with a sniper rifle all of a sudden. You didn't expect that piece. Probably not the piece you're going to be reaching for the most, but if it's a kill mission, he's actually not a bad profile to bring. Just, hi, I have a midfield sniper. I'm going to try to pick at something that you were trying to hide really back far in your deployment zone that you really weren't expecting me to bring. I've had Austin, bring funny little snipers that are in the midfield before, and they can do work. So don't turn your nose up at the Hawa. He's still worth it. Now, this next profile is the profile that I think everyone expects to hear about. He's the new hotness that as soon as Qapu Khalqi came out, everyone was losing their minds over. Posts all over Facebook were begging, where can I get this? Do you have this? I need this. And that is Special Deterrence Group, Asval, the Angels of Death. And boy, are they Angels of Death. Big, size 5, heavy infantry. Move 4-4, slow, but who cares? CC 15, BS 13, Fizz 13, Whip 14. Big, chunky armor 5, BTS 3 with 2 wounds. And the special skills, that's where the love comes in. BS attack +1 damage, so oh man is he hitting hard. BS attack continuous damage because he's packing thermite rounds, baby. Sure, he's dodging not very much. He's got fire team duo for a little bit of extra fun, and he's immune to shock. The Azrael gives me hope that Qapu Khalqi is going to see some more resculpts in the future because, oh man, this is a premier size 5. I love the Azrael. The AP heavy machine gun is probably going to be the piece you see the most because it's an AP heavy machine gun, he's got the heavy pistol, and he's super aggressively priced at 40 points. I do not see a reason not to bring at least one Azrael. If you don't have one, I'm sorry, but hey, everyone got another size 5 recently with, say, Red Veil or the release of the new action pack. Proxy. He's really good. He's really worth it. And the Feuerbach is nothing to sneeze at either, especially because of its +1 burst. Sure, you're paying a little bit more, but it's a +1 burst Feuerbach with +1 damage and thermite rounds. Yeah, he'll crack a tag. The fire team duo option is really cool because they're AVA 3, but the Rafiq FTO ability to link is really good, and I'll go over him right now actually. So to pair off the Azrael, we have the Rafiq. The Rafiq FTO is a piece that you will see in other Haqqislam lists, namely RTF, but here you're mostly going to be having him pal around with the Azrael, and it's actually a really good little piece. He's 6'4", he's CC 13, he's BS 11, Fizz 10, Whip 13, BTS 3, 1 structure. Your basic little FTO forward observer remote. Deactivator repeater. Really nice. You want to protect your Azrael? He's really good at protecting against hackers. He's got triangulated fire, courage, duo, immune to shock, he's an FO, he's a remote presence, and he's got a sensor. So he's really useful when he wants to pal around with his big buddy, the Azrael. Now, the FTO version in question has a Red Fury with a Flash Pulse at 0.5 SWC and 20 points. So this will bring your usual duo anywhere from 60 to 64 points with 2 SWC. Personally, I kind of like him with the Feuerbach if you want to be aggressive with the Feuerbach. But having 2 Burst 4 pieces in the AP H&G with Red Fury moving forward, not terrible either. I kind of like it. You can't, unfortunately, just have them both go into suppression fire. But hey, fire teams are getting changed, right? Maybe Duel will have some cool stuff. But he's a good, cheap little specialist if you want to have him, say, pal around with the Azrael that we all know you're bringing. Moving on from our more basic units that we have in Qapu Khalqi, let's go over the few characters that they have. Up first, we're going to go over Layla, mostly because I want to save the best for last, and mostly because she's actually a really good pickup. She's a wild card, so she can go with anybody, and she's a killer hacker with Whip 14. She's got the general kind of light infantry character stats with BS 12, Fizz 10, which you'll see is kind of a staple on most Haqqislam characters, excluding one that we'll go over when assassins are talked about. 2. Forgive me. I almost forgot about 1. Please don't send him after me. She's Arm 1, BTS 3, and she's religious. Shucked marksman, EM mines, which are actually really good now, and D charges with a breaker pistol. 20 points for a killer hacker that can pal around anywhere, even with an Azrael. It's really good. I really like Layla. She's a really good slot in if you want that extra protection. She's not necessary, but she's just really good. Solid piece. Bring her if you want. The next character that we'll be going over is Medical Specialist Ramen, the Super Doctor of Haqqislam. Move 4-4, CC 15, BS 11, Phys 11, Whip 15, Arm 1, BTS 6 for some reason. But we love it. Got a medkit, courage, Doctor +3, NWI. So yeah, he's healing people on an 18. He has like a, what, 20%? No, even less than that. He's got like barely any chance to fail at picking somebody up. Subgun Flash Pulse, keep him cheap at 21 points. And again, he's a wild card. Slot him in anywhere. Just let him go. Now, most people will probably be like, well, why would you bring the Sec Ben? Because this guy's so much cheaper. Because the Sec Ben has a 360 visor and he's really cool. But Ramen's really, really good. He's definitely a super doctor. And if you have the spare change and you want a super doctor, reach for Ramen. He's worth it. Last up, though, one of my favorite profiles in Haqqislam as a whole. Wild Bill, the legendary gun slinger. Oh, I love Wild Bill. He's move 6-2, so he's aggressive. He's CC 15. You'll see why that's important. BS 13, Phys 11, Whip 13, 1 armor, 1 moon. He's got BS attack +1 damage. We're already looking good and seeing what he likes to do. He's got BS attack shock. Still seeing what he likes to do. Courage, dodge +3 inches, so who cares about that Phys 11. Marksmanship, who cares about your cover. No wound in cap. And he can be a part of Kaplan and Janissary fire teams. Can we say aggressive heavy infantry core, people? Oh, I love Wild Bill. He's so good. Now, he has 2 profiles where the only difference is their main armament. For the most part, he is a close-range gunslinger with his multi-pistols +1 burst. So, yeah, that gets pretty nutty. That gets really nutty. I mean, multi-pistols are crazy good, all in all. When you pair them with an extra burst, and then in a fire team, it's like you're shooting Spitfires at close range with AP or shock. Yeah. Oh, and he turns the DA profile into burst 3 in a fire team. Okay. Seems really good. I love Wild Bill. I love Wild Bill so much. Now, the profile I like the most is the rifle, just because it's a rifle. When you put it in a fire team, he has a nice longer range weapon that's going to be burst 4, and it's hitting at damage 14. Not to say the contender's bad. It's only 2 shots, though, and it's pretty much the same ranges as the rifle, but let's be honest, guys. Dice are king. Wild Bill's definitely been in more of my lists than that, and I really like him. He's really aggressively priced. He's really aggressive, and he's going to be something that you'll reach for when you want that uber shooter. I have played games where Wild Bill went on a complete rampage and murdered half of a list. I'm sorry, Austin. Please forgive me. But all in all, that's Qapu Khalqi. A lot of aggression, a lot of defense, and a lot of versatility. They're going to definitely be a faction that I'm going to be playing more, especially when we can start playing games again. And I hope you will too. That being said, thank you again for watching Concilium Watch. Please like and subscribe. leave us a comment down below. Let me know if I'm right. Let me know if I'm wrong. Let me know if you agree, you disagree. Tell me where I got it wrong. Tell me where I got it right. Let me know if you're excited about Qapu Khalqi, because they're one of the quote-unquote out-of-production armies that saw a nice bit of a glow-up. There's a few others, but I think Qapu Khalqi is one that took the cake. So again, have a good one. Hope you enjoyed. Peace!